So we have the esoteric mysteries of Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve are the dual manifestations of the monad. The monad is the one, and then Adam and Eve are the physical, dualistic representations of the two invisible forces. Love is feminine and wisdom is masculine. These two ideal principles that have existed eternally are the dualistic manifestations of the supreme unified deity, which is a unified monad with both of these qualities within itself. That monad creates separate the one and the many. So because there's one, it also manifests its reflection and creates many. And in those many monads that all of us are in different places on the graph, essentially, out of all of those monads, there's a split, and that split occurs, and Adam is split into that atom, that spiritual atom. They're all atoms, all as a tomb. We use the Sambes method taught by Santos Bonacci, and he has explained that all is a tomb, and that Adam is the first spiritual unit. That unit splits into Adam and Eve's and once this split occurs, the souls descend on their journey into matter. Now, when we use the word descend, what we're talking about is transitioning from one realm to another, a subtle realm to a very dense, condensed realm, because matter is the polar opposite of spirit. And this deity, this monad, the supreme creator, emanates himself and projects himself into that dualistic spirit and matter, masculine and female. So from the monad, the dual principles of positive and negative manifest. So Adam Kadmon is the first created Adam. We have him on the sine wave of the ecliptic from Aries, Taurus, Gemini to the feet of Pisces. And from the monad, the dual principles of positive and negative manifest. So if we take a look here, the monad projects itself into duality, spirit and matter. And these two are representations of love and wisdom. So you have the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of earth, life, death. So the Adam and Eve split eternally. So the as above, so below, the microcosm that we have here in the physical realm, where we see all of these different units of male and female, all of them are physically manifested and projected from the spiritual realm into the physical realm. And they carry that polarity before incarnation. Before incarnation, we already have been split from our Adam. So whether that is Adam or Eve depends on the manifestation here in the physical realm. So from the monad, the dual principles of positive and negative, or love and wisdom, eternally manifest from that ray. On the tree of life, this would be Kether, becoming Chokman Bana, love and wisdom. And from these two create the Christ. And that Christ is the logos, the word that creates Adam, which projects itself into the sine wave, splits itself into units as we can see ourselves. And we have to go back from the dense realm that we are coming into to fermentate and to gestate in the womb or the tomb, to create ourselves anew, to be born again, and to ascend back into the causal realm, for unified with our other half. So the Adam and Eve split eternally manifests as male and female. In the sense, this physical expression is an effect of the spiritual. We can see that gender is eternal and exists before material incarnation. So when Adam and Eve are expelled from the garden, it's talking about, garden in Hebrew is bliss, or a place of bliss. It's known as a heavenly place or an astral realm that we call in the fifth dimension. And Eden is a place of unlimited potential where we are innocent and unlimited. It's the plane of where we're not physical. We're not in a physical realm. When the souls are split from the monad, our personal monad, the one becomes the two and creates us as individuals, we then decide to bite the apple, the torus field. We have a desire to descend into material realm. But once we descend into the material realm, we're supposed to live within the laws of the creator. But when we cause ourselves to fall into this realm, we also have an affinity to always be striving for sense gratification, greed, lust, anger, to become conditioned by certain vices. And because of this, we become more and more magnetically attracted to the physical realm. So this is what being expelled from the garden is. Our astral selves, our true spiritual beings, became enveloped in animal skin. And we know that when we descended, Adam and Eve clothed in animal skins. You know, Jehovah kicks them out of the garden, out of the astral plane, the fifth dimension, into the physical realm of matter. They're clothed in animal skins because our human flesh, right? This human body is part of the 12 animal, the 12 zodiac, the Mazzaroth. And because of that, it's allegorically saying that our soul is clothed in animal skins as we descend into the material realm. So the soul is cast out of the garden. The garden is the spiritual and is in the fifth dimension. It's a state of consciousness, and it resides here in the physical realm in the heart chakra, because the human being is a microcosm of the macrocosm. We are a representation of the realms, or the ladder of those emanations, from the monad to the duad to the triad to creating all things. We are the many, manifesting all those monads that split into Adam and Eve's and participate in descending into particular forms in the physical realm through desire, or that inertia that pulls us in. It's allegorized when Adam and Eve eat the apple. Eve, or the emotional nature of the soul, decides to descend, and it takes Adam, the spirit, with it. We descend into physical realm into avatars. So the soul's descent into material realm, biting the apple of the torus field, because the apple is the symbol of the torus field. So when Eve bites the apple, we're falling into this sine wave of physical incarnation. And clothing with animal skins because we're falling into fall. It'd be fall and winter, Sagittarius and Capricorn, until the story continues into the point of the Noah's flood, and then coming down to Abraham and Moses and Aries. So the serpent represents sense consciousness and the desire of sensation, and it's the pole of the lower chakras. So on man, we have the heaven chakras, crown chakra, third eye chakra, throat chakra, and the heart chakra. Heart chakra represents the earth, also represents the sun, Leo. And these three lower chakras are the inertic chakras that are pulling, that want the soul to be attracted to matter, to where we are almost prideful in our sense of self so much that we end up crystallizing into human form to have these experiences so that we can learn the universal lessons. There's a lot of lessons that can only be learned through the soul's descent into these physical incarnations, and that we can learn a lot from overcoming desires and faults, because yes, we're in a realm of both good and evil. There's a lot of wicked stuff going on, and the truth of the matter is when we are witnessing these evil things that take place, the evil things that are done to us, as well as the evil things that we've done to others, and understand that we've also transgressed, we've also done our part in evil, so we can start to overcome and go for the good, because the sun, which represents the eternal good, has an affinity to attract souls onto itself. So when we descend into physical realm, there's that savior aspect that wants to lift us up back into our eternal home. So that descent in the first place takes place because of the serpent of the lower chakras, or the desire of sensation of the material realm. In the Eastern tradition, it's called Prakriti, or the five senses, the five elements, and it has an affinity to attract, and we become absorbed in it, absorbed in our reflection, our pride, and we end up becoming, within animals. We're in the mundane realm. We are not able to, just fly and teleport and live freely. We have to wake up for 16 hours a day, every day, inside of a physical skeleton body with the bones of Saturn. So there's definitely, it's very questionable what we can do to experience the truth of our immortal self eternally. So according to Thomas H. Burgoyne, which we're going to be reading a couple of paragraphs of today, but I'm going to touch on it here first, is he's just uncovered what he would say is false teachings that has been just misunderstood from the ages of certain esoteric nihilist schools that believe that there's no soul, or that the soul simply is annihilated after death, or that it goes into the cosmic goo and loses its identity. These esoteric schools also tend to teach that gender only appears in the physical realm, and that the soul is genderless before incarnation. Now, regardless of if the soul is genderless, or if it changes gender in the spiritual realm or not, it is known that our spiritual gender is in and of itself what it is before it incarnates. So the duality of Adam and Eve, wisdom and love, man and woman, are the eternal rays and expression of the monad or deity in his eternal dual expression. So the reality of spirit has gender before incarnation and after. So we get to continue in this array of polarity. So Eve is represented by the gentle, loving, softening, receptive nature of humanity. It's magnetic. Eve and the wave, Santos has explained in Mr. Astrotheology, talks quite a bit about Eve and the wave, the sin of Eve being the wave or the sine wave. This sine wave is the secret of all creation. And when Eve bites the apple, it's the sin of Eve, because it's the soul's desire to descend into matter and to express itself in this beautiful, dramatic play, this theater, this realm where we take part in the storybook or the workshop of the prime creator. So even though Eve, it is allegorically and theatrically made to be very dramatic, in the sense that the soul, it's a very dramatic experience for the soul to be cast out of the garden of the fifth dimension into the third dimension, where, there's a lot of things that can happen to you, and you're limited because you're inside the physical body now, due to, compared to how you are in your eternal nature and in the higher abodes or realms, the higher places of beings, places that you can be. So Adam represents the spirit, electricity, and the exploring creation and seeking wisdom. So it's the part of our soul. So these both manifest in both male and female. They both manifest everyone has both in them, but one is dominant. So this applies to everyone. Everyone has the spirit, electrical, and the exploring creative part of them, but in the different principles of who and who is what, it depends on the physical representation. So these parts of ourself are always cooperating within us throughout our entire life. Red shift, blue shift. On the sine wave, we have red shift, blue shift, each one corresponding to the dualistic experiences that we experience once we descended from the monad, or the one. And we have the tarot cards, the devil and the lovers. The lovers represent the Garden of Eden, the descent of the splitting of the monad into the duad. So here's the Elohim, which is both male and female, creating his emanations, love and wisdom, male and female, and losing the innocence, because now you're descended into the physical world of trial and error and shame. Where that was not a case in the physical realm, in the spiritual realm, because that was a realm of non-duality with difference. And we hear on the side, once we are in the physical realm, we become encased in or entombed in matter and experience a spiritual death. That's why God says, if you eat of the apple, you should surely die, because you experience a physical death. The physical death in the scriptures is an allegory for spiritually dying or leaving the Garden of Eden to come into physical realm, because God in the Garden of Eden says, if you eat of the apple for the tree of knowledge of good and evil, or the sine wave, which is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you will surely die. and death means physical incarnation. So when the soul dies, it's entombed in matter and enslaved to the senses. And we experience and triumph these trial and error through our partnerships that we take place in this realm. And I'd like to explore a little bit about what Manly P. Hall and Secret Teachings of All Ages had to say about the theory of soulmates, the theory, or what I would say the fact of the two principles becoming merged one again. Now, when we say merged one again, we don't mean that they're going to become one being. They're going to still have their separate individuality, but they're going to be crossed together. So conjoined as one. In the Mysteries of Adam is accredited with having the peculiar power of spiritual generation. Instead of reproducing his kind by the physical generative process, he caused to issue from himself, or more correctly, to be reflected upon substance, a shadow of himself. This shadow he then ensouled, and it became a living creature. These shadows, however, remain only as long as the original figure of which they are reflections endures. For the removal of the original, the host of likeness vanished with it. Herein is the key to the allegory or allegorical creation of Eve out of the side of Adam. For Adam, representative of the idea or pattern, is reflected into the material universe as a multitude of ensouled images which collectively are designated Eve. According to another theory, the division of the sexes took place in the archetypal sphere, in the spiritual realm. Hence, the shadow and the lower world were divided into two classes consisting with the order established in the archetype. In the apparently incomprehensible attraction of one sex for the other, Plato recognized a cosmic urge towards reunion of the severed halves of this archetypal being. So we get from the Neoplatonic schools that the splitting of Adam and Eve and the descent from the garden is an allegory for the human nature that is split into these two principles and are seeking to reunite. From this concept has grown the much abused doctrine of soulmates who must quest through the ages until the complementary part of each severed soul is discovered. The modern concept of marriage is to a certain degree founded upon this ideal. So we have a marriage, the sun and moon are coming together in the alchemical union. We have it showing that this is where the idea of marriage came from. According to the other school, the so-called division of the sexes resulted from suppression of one pole of the androgynous being in order that the vital energies manifesting through it might be diverted to development of the rational faculties from this point. From this point of view, man is still actually androgynous and spiritually complete, but in the material world, the feminine part of man's nature and the masculine part of women's nature are quiescent. Through a spiritual unfoldment and knowledge imparted by the mysteries, however, the latent element in each nature is gradually brought into activity, and ultimately the human being thus regains sexual equilibrium. By this theory, woman is elevated from the position of being man's errant part to one's complete equality. From this point of view, marriage is regarded as a companionship in which two complete individualities manifesting opposite polarities are brought into association, that each may thereby awaken the qualities latent in the other and thus assist in the attainment of individual completeness. The first theory may be said to regard marriage as an end, the second as a means to an end. The deeper schools of philosophy have leaned towards the latter as more adequately acknowledging the infinite potentialities of divine completeness in both aspects of creation. So it's saying like there's a difference between like there's some that say like all of the relationships have equaled this change that is occurring and that people are there to balance each other out. And then the other school of thought is saying that there's a merge of only one and two atoms that come together, Adam and Eve that come together, that is the perfect union. The Christian church is fundamentally opposed to the theory of marriage, claiming that the highest degree of spirituality is achievable only by those preserving the virginal state. This concept seemingly originated among certain sects of the early Gnostic Christians who taught that to propagate the human species was to increase and perpetuate the power of the demiurgos, for the lower world was looked upon as an evil fabrication. So here's a belief system that, you know, it's showing that the earth is just an evil place that we should prevent ourselves. But we know that this realm is a place of experience to learn, to grow, and to conquer the lower self. So we know that our souls are made in the same way our bodies are made on the physical realm. And our soul parents are the atom that is differentiated from the divine monad into two separate duads, which is love and wisdom. wisdom being the father masculine principle, love being the mother nurturing. The two soul parents come together just in the same way in the Indian tradition of Krishna and Radha, or in the Western, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, or in the Eastern, Shiva and Shakti, to create the individual monads, which are in our inner father, our inner self creator, which then also split into two. And we are the children of this light that separates into those two polarities of love and wisdom. And these are, our souls are split from our eternal spiritual parents that reside in the higher planes of existence that create our individuality. So Adam and Eve's, we're all Adam and Eve's, and each Adam has a part of Eve inside of him. And when we incarnate into the realm of matter, we have our other half inside of us and a part of us that reacts as our divine mother or our divine father, just like Carl Jung talked about the animus. And by using the analogy of above, as above, so below, I wanted to show you guys exactly how this relates to us on a physical level. If you take notice here, the oil that descends into Malkuth, or the physical realm, which is at the bottom of the spine, we have the claustrum or the cerebrum, the father, the one, the monad, or the dualistic father, mother, God, and then dripping, secretes the oil and differentiates into the pineal and pituitary gland, which is the divine wisdom and divine love, the two separate ones. We have Kether, Chokmah, Binah on the tree of life. And these two separate glands are then representations of what happens on an outer level and inner level, because our soul also descends from the monad, splits into Adam and Eve's, descends into the physical realm, and reascends back into the kingdom of heaven from whence it came. So these are both allegories pertaining to the physiology of the body, as well as the astrotheology, as well as the anagogical universe of the soul's descent into physical realm, and the dramatic nature of reality of life and death and hurt and sorrow. In the Upanishads, it talks about the five sorrows of existence. We have to lose loved ones. We have to go through losing our partnerships. We lose ourselves. We'll have to, there's a lot of things that need to be that are sacrificed, that we don't want to at the end of our life. We have to sacrifice all of our material longings for all the wealth that we accumulated, or our progeny, or whatever we feel that we were attached to the most. We'll be leaving the body. So but we'll be moving to a higher realm, an existence of ether. And in that realm, we will have more ability to conquer our senses, of our spiritual senses, and not just the physical ones. So we'll still have things to work on in the spiritual realm that are more internal virtues and vices, rather than just the physical ones. We're going to be working on more of our mental and emotional ones in the higher planes of existence. So when we descend from the Garden of Eden, it's when we accumulate the energy here in the solar plexus from this oil that descends Adam and Eve. This energy starts accumulating. And when this energy accumulates, Eve is tempted to bite the apple. And this is when we fall from the heart chakra down into the lower chakras, and we are clothed with animal skins because our animal nature kicks in, and we're kicked out of the fifth dimension. So if we're in the physical realm, we're in the third dimension. But if we live in the heart chakra, we have access to the fifth dimension. That fifth dimension allows us to live life in the kingdom of heaven, and is a direct shot up to the kingdom in the brain, to the Father and the Son. So when we're expelled from this dimension, so it's the fourth chakra. Root chakra is first, this chakra is second, solar plexus is third, then the heart chakra fifth. Fourth. It's the fourth, fifth dimension. So you have the kingdom of heaven here, and then where the creator sits on his throne in the upper chamber, because this body is a microcosm of the macrocosm. And in the same way Adam and Eve are splitting from the monad into the duad, it goes down Ida and Pingala, the two, it descends. The snake is the spinal column, which tempts the energy to descend. And it's our ability self-conscious humans of this light of the world, the pineal gland, self-consciousness, and love and wisdom. We use love and wisdom to conquer and bring up truth, which truth ascends the Adam and Eve back into the brain as one but separate, and replenishes the whole body. And that's eating of the tree of life. In Thomas H. Burgoyne, Light of Egypt, I'm going to briefly go over some things that relate to the mysteries of the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and sex, because the nature of this is the mysteries of sex. Because according to Thomas H. Burgoyne, it has been well said by an eminent occultist, man is the most ignorant of those things which are most manifest. In some departments of nature, this is true, and probably in no other manifested department of his being is this truth more strikingly apparent than in that which relates to his sexual nature. He is aware that animal nature is divided into two great classes, male and female, but he knows almost nothing of the spiritual principles which underlie this physical expression of sex. He is fully aware of that union of the two organisms is necessary for the purpose of procreation, but he is fearfully ignorant of those interior processes which produce the actual germs of life. He is more or less acquainted with the fact that in the lower stratas of animated existence, bisexual organisms are the general rule, and that occasionally his bisexual nature becomes manifested among men, as seen as the hermaphrodite, but he is quite at a loss to account for such monstrous productions. Hence, it may be truly said that man is most ignorant of those things which are most manifest. Therefore, in order to enable the general reader to clearly grasp the various connecting links in the mystical ramifications of sex, to see their perfect harmony, and to understand their relation as clearly as possible, its nature and functions. Thirdly, point out the relations of the sexes to each other, and lastly, present a briefly application of the whole as it relates to man, the universe, and immortality. This is where he explains the origin of sex is because the deity is a unity that expresses or manifests as a duality. This is the eternal trinity of life, because you have the one, which separates into two, Kether, which separates the Chokmah Banah, Jehovah, which creates Adam and Eve. And deity is a unity that expresses or manifests itself as a duality. Therefore, it contains all the elements of sex in their primal state when the first pulsations of that thought, which evolved the divine idea, became manifest. Nature arrayed herself under the two modes of motion, action, and reaction, the Holy Trinity. The inbreathing and outbreathing of this divine thought in the earliest dawn of creation thus instituted the first spiritual attributes of sex. Each function of the deific soul, which we designated as an inspiration and respiration, or action and reaction of the universal life current, thus becomes differentiated for all eternity as the primary fundamental principle of manifested being. The Kabbalistical initiates of the ages that are gone formulated the same biune spirit as love and wisdom. Love is the negative or feminine ray, is content and ever seeks to unfold. Wisdom, as the positive masculine ray, is restless and always in pursuit. So Krishna and Radha, Krishna is always in pursuit of Radha. Radha is always calm, nurturing. We have Adam and Eve, Sarah and Abraham. These stories manifest these principles in the physical realm, in our body, and as well in the heavens, and anagogically in our life, our spiritual, internal, inner life. It's saying that we descend into this physical realm to understand, to know, to eat the knowledge of good and evil. We understand the knowledge of being separate. To know what we are is to pose what we're not. To understand that we've incarnated into fleshly beings, and understand that our spiritual nature is above the incarnation, outside of the realm, in counter space. And that's the kingdom of heaven. And we access that kingdom of heaven by developing our inner life and returning to Eden through understanding how to do human things like sex correctly. So instead of just being like animals, we learn how to have sex correctly. And he does talk about that there is a group of esoteric schools that teach us to become celibate from the first part of our life forever, and that sex is bad, and that will actually cause degeneration because our soul naturally wants to unite with its other polarity, and if we stunt that growth, then we'll be held back. It's important to know that celibacy is a symptom of being united with someone that you love and practicing sex in the correct way, and rising up to the higher chambers of the brain, which is the kingdom of heaven, and activating the heart chakra. By doing that, you'll reach to a point where you could, if you became celibate later in your life, it would be because you were spiritually ready for it, rather than saying that that is the be end all of all things. Now, if you are, of course, if you're single, then it is hard, but you can definitely retain your magnetic energy and pray and have faith and hope that your physical other half will manifest at the right time. Because he says in the latter capacity, they have formulated much erroneous philosophies. Since then, they are self-magnetized, self-deluded, and of their own positive idea of nature to such an extent that they cannot penetrate beyond their own astral spheres, nor receive any knowledge which elevates the soul to higher views and truer conceptions of God's infinite resources. It is from this magical school of thought that mankind have received the doctrines which teach that sex is only the appearance of matter and not a spiritual reality, whereas nothing in this mighty universe is so manifest and so eternal as the male and female expressions of the divine soul. Krishna and Radharani, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, all the dualistic male and female characters. It is impossible for the absolute ego, the twin soul, to descend into more outward conditions than the paradisiacal state. So in order to attain the full development of its internal attributes, its own soul expressed as male and female elements, each unit is projected outward upon the subjective arc of the great cycle, where after passing through innumerable spheres and states of life, each finally reaches the polarizing point of creation. We descend into the physical realm, into the mineral, the plant, and then animal, and then finally become human. And then we're shooting for ether realms now. We go from earth, water, air, fire, ether. Our goal is to get to the ether and fire realms and to acquire bodies of air and fire. So these are just some of the things I wanted to share about the mysteries of Adam and Eve, how it relates to ourselves on an astrophysiological level, and how we can understand how it relates to us philosophically, of how the soul descends into matter and how it splits and reunites with its other half in this marriage of the sun and moon. We have to learn how to conquer these things in a positive way, to understand how to use our relationship that we have with our partner to ascend, and to use it to see a reflection of ourselves, to work on ourselves, and through trial and error to become the perfect alchemical marriage, and return to the Garden of Eden, which is full of bliss. The Garden of Eden is where we resided in consciousness, before we developed the ego. Where we're in a state of rest and stillness and bliss, which is above pain and pleasure, pleasure and pain, knowledge of good and evil, or the realm of duality. So if we discipline ourselves to study these ancient scriptures and ancient holy books, I wanted to relay some information of the how this relates to Upanishads and the Ayatreya Upanishad, and how it is very similar to the biblical Garden of Eden story, and kind of connect those. I'll be doing that in the next video. And yep, thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.